Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. After the blitzkrieg on ground against Pakistan, hitting 11 air bases in 25 minutes, India now is on an information blitzkrieg. Shunning its old reticent ways of the past, thinking the world would naturally support the right thing and the truth, today India is making it clear that it will use all information in its kitty to humiliate Pakistan for its ignominy, the way it suffered at the hands of the Indian armed forces. Pakistan tried to deny it, Americans tried to equate India and Pakistan, and international media agencies became useful tools to promote all lies and propaganda to save face for Pakistan. But armed with facts and high-resolution images, support of global war experts, India now has stamped its military authority around the world. This is a message to Pakistan and allies' propaganda machine, but also to world powers that India's defense is second to none and we don't need to depend on you for our progress. Some may hold trade considerations as a carrot and stick, but once it comes to national interests, those tricks have no effect. Besides, for their own national self-interest, India knows they will have to do business with India. Speaking of business, is it time India also rethinks its hand of friendship to some countries? We discuss that and more with our guests in just a bit. First up, Turkey's stand recently has been specially eye-opening because supplying arms to a country like Pakistan against India is one thing, but Turkey openly batted for Pakistan during this recent conflict. So while India did Operation Dost, Pakistan used Turkish drones to attack India. While India set up a field hospital for Turkey in its hour of need, Turkey docked its warship in Karachi to support Pakistan. While India sent medical teams essential equipment after the earthquake in 2023, Turkey called India's action against terror in Pakistan a provocation. This is not new. Turkey has been at it for a while. It has done this in the past, portrayed India as an occupier in Kashmir, for example, alleged human rights violation by Indian forces, given platform to separatist voices against India on its global media platforms, justified terrorism in the name of a freedom struggle. That's an old playbook. It has even portrayed policies like CAA, NRC as anti-Muslim when these are just policies that any nation will have to govern itself. And it has backed Pakistan's nuclear threat against India. There have been calls to boycott travel to countries like Turkey and Azerbaijan by Indian tourists and even traders for goods traded between the two. This after these countries supported Pakistan amidst the current hostilities. As a result, many Indian travelers are cancelling their trips, leading to significant drop in bookings. Ixigo, which is a travel agency, has said that when it comes to Bharat, they don't think twice. Ease My Trip says, we strongly recommend visiting these countries only if absolutely necessary. Cox and Kings says sometimes a pause becomes a necessity. Travo Mint has decided to support call for boycotting Turkey and Azerbaijan as well. Go Homestays has announced that they will officially end their partnership with Turkish Airlines. Goa Villas is another company that books homestays and such, says we will not offer any accommodation services to Turkish citizens. Pick Your Trail also echoed that when national interest is at stake, we stand with India. So after busting Pakistan's lies and all of the propaganda that it has been peddling against India and India's armed forces, is it also time to go cold turkey as far as certain other friendly countries are concerned? And does India need stronger action when it comes to these propaganda machines that are state propaganda machines of other countries? That's coming up.
जब तक टर्की पाकिस्तान का सपोर्ट कर रहा है तब तक हम उसको टर्की से जो आने वाले माल को हम स्वेच्छा से हम इंपोर्ट नहीं करेंगे।
जो देश भारत के खिलाफ खड़ा होगा, भारत का व्यापारी कभी ना उसको सपोर्ट करेगा ना उसको समर्थन करेगा।
तो अब समय आ गया है कि हम अगर अपनी टूरिज्म एक्टिविटी भी चूज करें, हम ऐसे देशों के साथ करें जो हमें मजबूत बनाते हैं, जो हमारा ही कमाए हुए पैसों से आतंकवाद दूसरे देशों से हमारे खिलाफ नहीं करें।
Let's go across to our guest joining us, Tarakarta, former director, NSCS. Subhash Goyal is founder, STIC Travel Group and Companies. Rajat Sethi is political analyst. Will be joined with some more guests. Thanks a lot to all of you for your time. Tarakarta, the question of Turkey. I haven't mentioned China explicitly because that's a long-standing understanding that we Indians have of how China's expansionist policies and tendencies are a danger to India. In this conflict too, China didn't, very openly bat for Pakistan, but we know where its interests lie. Turkey and some others kind of came out more explicitly. What do you think could be appropriate response from India in this regard? I know India's foreign policy doesn't like to take on countries very openly, like some others, but what do you think could be an appropriate response?
I think, actually in this, China was more restrained in
Yes.
its statements than Turkey.
Yes.
In fact, till the end, when there are briefings, in press briefings, they were pretty okay with this. But the fact is that Turkey has long been a kind of cat's paw for China. In various areas, in Afghanistan, when they want to take the lead, they use Turkey. So they take that route because most of the time they don't directly deal with these guys. But I just want, if you permit, I'll just bring out one aspect. Both Pakistan and Turkey are adept at taking both sides. Turkey is part of NATO. It's also part of this combine which is screaming for Palestine and doing all the Kashmir jihad, blah, blah, blah. Pakistan does the same. Both are good at playing US and Pakistan. I found this.
You mean
to be-
China? Sorry, you mean China, right?
Yes, China. That's right. So they are very good at that. What do we do? I've been to Turkey myself a couple of times, once on holiday, twice officially. And I can't see why on earth we should not cut off. It's easy to say cut off ties, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, last year, we had a pretty big shipping deal with Turkey, which we cancelled, perhaps for good reason. But while at this point, I would say definitely cut off all tourist trade. We don't want to go there, and I don't think Indians should go there, even in terms of safety. But you need to also think of other options down the line as you go on, because Turkey is also a NATO member.
Subhash Goyal, I want to bring you in before I discuss more diplomatic measures and just what ordinary Indians can do. Can you give me a sense of what is the response that your company, for example, has seen since the role of Turkey and Azerbaijan became very prominent?
I am also the chairman of the Aviation and Tourism Expert Committee of the Indian Chamber.
Yes.
And all the associations, trade associations, that is the Travel Agents Association of India, Indian Association of Tour Operators, Indian Association of MICE Network Agents, all the agents have issued statements and press releases to boycott Turkey and Azerbaijan. Now, why this is going to have an impact? Because Indians are the number one spenders of money in shopping in Singapore, Malaysia, Switzerland, London. So we are number one. And last year, 3,33,000 Indians visited Turkey and 2,25,000 Indians visited Azerbaijan. We spent crores and crores of rupees in foreign exchange. After this appeal, and with organizations like Ease My Trip, Cox and Kings and all, and also the outbound tour operators of India have, boycotted Turkey and Azerbaijan. So I am confident that more than 50% of the tourists going to both these countries are going to cancel their trips.
50% you may say?
More than 50%.
More than 50%.
70%, because only those who have already paid, and for them it will be a financial loss. They will carry on with the journey, but I will advise them to be careful for their security, because and I think Government of India maybe issue an advisory, because if these terrorists can come into Kashmir and kill innocent tourists, front of their eyes on the basis of their religion, I think they can do it more easily in countries like Azerbaijan and Turkey. So Indian tourists need to be careful there, number one. Number two, I think there are many countries like Mauritius, the Prime Minister immediately openly supported us.
Yeah.
Like Armenia, like Kazakhstan, like Uzbekistan. Now all these Central Asian countries are as beautiful or probably more beautiful than both countries, and they have history, culture and everything to offer, and it's visa on arrival in all these countries. So why should we not go to these countries? And as it is in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, we are already sending millions of tourists. Indian outbound tourism, which is around 25 million, is a big force to reckon with, and today this is our soft power of India.
Okay. Just give me a moment, sir. I'm going to come back to you. Rajat Sethi has also been waiting. Rajat, the question is this. Should India do this as a government diktat, or should we allow the minds of the Indians to come together and take a natural call? Now, that's the question. What road do you think we should go down as a country?
Well, Shivani, constitutionally, government cannot mandate movement of tourists. It comes out of sheer volition and resolve as a collective. And I believe government can 100% issue advisories to our adversaries. And to that effect, if those adversaries are Turkey and other countries, so be it. 4,000 crore of money in terms of tourism spending, etc., goes into Azerbaijan and Turkey. These are the rough approximation, which is our foreign exchange going into these countries for tourism purposes. Have we ever thought about none of these countries even recognize any part of Kashmir to be legitimate and indivisible part of India?
Yeah.
On the contrary, it is Armenia, sitting right next to Azerbaijan and in a conflict, and one of the important countries which buys Indian weapons also, and is one of the rare countries which regard all of Kashmir, including Pakistan occupied Kashmir, as our sovereign territory. Why do our tourists not go to Armenia and go to Azerbaijan and Turkey? So I think this education, this larger sentiments that are driving in our tourism is absolutely welcome.
No,
we brought Maldives on the knees. You know how on the knees, how they were trying to flex their muscles.
Yeah.
But when we showed what our soft power is capable of doing, they had to go to our line. And I think every tool, be it hard power, soft power, now there is no discrimination between anything of that sort. Our strategic goals are paramount, and we will do anything that is needed.
But here's the problem, Rajat, here's the problem. You ask Indians to make certain calls when Indian government is in business with these countries. Is that fair? The question arises, if the governments continue to do business, if the Indian state doesn't show the spine to say, okay, we will suffer, Indians will suffer, but we're not going to deal with countries that deliberately arm Pakistan against India, then you can't expect this moral high ground from citizens alone. This has been said in context of Pakistan itself.
I will differentiate. There are fine lines and nuances in this as well. If somebody is selling arms, etc., there are a whole lot of people engaging in arms trade around the world. The real challenge here is that Turkey is one country which did not even come out and criticize and certainly did not agree to India's right to respond after Pahalgam attacks. That is going below the belt. These countries who do not come out and stand in solidarity with our country should be called out. And countries like Turkey, and there are others also, they have to be identified. And we have to create social pressure so that tourism does not go into Turkey or into Azerbaijan. And government will have to eventually fall in line. I mean, the same happened with Maldives. MEA kept kowtowing a line, but then once their president breached the red line, the red Rubicon on diplomacy, he had to suffer. And then he came back to India with a request to extend the credit line once again. So things can happen. You have to project your power. Power does not exist in vacuum. It has to be exerted to be realized that this country holds an enormous power, being the fourth largest economy and having 150 crore people.
Yeah, and they want the Indian market, isn't it? Tarakarta, this kind of extends to what Donald Trump has been trying to say at least. Indian government maintains that no trade was discussed as far as any communication with US officials during this entire conflict is concerned. But let's say Donald Trump is going around the world now saying, oh, I used carrot as a stick and a carrot both. I used trade as a stick and a carrot both. The bottom line is that India needs to stand firm on this. Like, even if there were attempts to do this or there are attempts to do this in future, we shouldn't I hope we're not in a position where we have to buckle any more. In the past also, India has faced sanctions and so on, and we've stood firm when it comes to national interest. It shouldn't be too difficult even now.
There's no question. There's absolutely no question of this. And I think MEA has made it clear that there is not going to be, the whole Prime Minister's speech was hinged on that. No talks with terror, those three principles which he outlined. Trade, I honestly don't know where trade even came into it. That whole trade issue is separate. And incidentally, I think just yesterday, we fired our first anti-trade salvo in the US against a US tariff line. That was just yesterday. Of course, it's part of your normal trade negotiations when we said we'll have reciprocal tariffs. That's what we've done. So that is not working. What I'm trying to say about Turkey is the fact that, like Rajat said, a lot of people supply weapons to a bunch of countries, right? But I would agree with Rajat is that their position on Kashmir, their anti-India sentiment, that is what we need to. But Erdogan is not Turkey. I think we should make that differentiation. Erdogan is, he's not, the most popular of leaders. He's not popular as a leader even inside European countries. People are uncomfortable with him. So that, our position on this as an advisory would be very good enough because, like the gentleman from Styx, the travel group said, Indians are not safe there. So I think we should issue that advisory.
Yeah, somehow India is very reticent in doing these things. But Mr. Goyal, I want to come back to you and ask, sometimes we see this fervor when there is conflict at its peak. We've seen this in the past. Let's say Galwan is an example or Maldives is an example. But then when the conflict subsides, these are not very long-term attitudinal changes in Indian public. Do you think this will sustain or it will blow over as it sometimes does?
Look, Shivani, it's not a question of India, Pakistan, India, Turkey or India, Azerbaijan. It's a question for the world conscious because India is fighting against terrorism. And first thing they did was they destroyed the terrorist training grounds and centers. So that means the world must identify the countries that are supporting terrorism.
Second, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. Let's forget what the world does. Sir, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. Let's forget what the world does. The world will do what it does. I'm asking you about Indians. Do Indians in the long term care enough about the countries who take an anti-India or a stand inimical to Indian interest? That is what we need to ask ourselves.
Indians have definitely done that. Our Indian chamber was the first statement to boycott Maldives was issued by me, and after that there was a complete boycott of Maldives, and till today they have not reached that level which they were. I mean, tourism to Maldives from India has forever gone down by more than 50%. It is no longer the preferred destination. People are choosing Sri Lanka, people are choosing Mauritius. There are a lot of island states around the world. Even our Andaman Nicobar have become more popular. So what I am saying is that we have to make a beginning. Those days when India could take it lying down are over. And ever since the Modi government has come, we want to do tit for tat. And our Prime Minister has made it very clear that any act of terror will be considered as an act of war. And we will again hit. And our armaments, our BrahMos missiles, I mean, they have proved stronger than any other weaponry, whether it is American or it is Chinese or it is Turkish or anything.
Right.
None of, the systems that we had, thanks to our support by Russia, that the defense system we had, they were not able to penetrate. So we must identify our friends. We should work, do more business and more tourism to, as rightly said, to Armenia, to Russia, to all these countries who have been supporting us, and we must boycott the countries which are against our national interest.
Okay, okay.
Our armed forces are fighting on the border, and it is the job of every patriotic citizen to support the armed forces by boycotting those who are fueling the, ammunition of the enemy.
Yes. Ambassador Prabhudeal is also joining us. Sir, thanks a lot for your time. What do you think could be appropriate responses from India, both subtle, overt and, not so overt, given how Turkey has behaved during this conflict?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on your show. India has been extremely nice with Turkey.
Yeah.
You would recall that when there was an earthquake in Turkey last year, India was among the first countries to send relief supplies, and our operation was named Operation Dost.
Yes.
This we had done despite the fact that Pakistan had been consistently supported by Turkey. Turkey had been supporting Pakistan all along in the context of Kashmir. And all the statements that the Turkish government was making, for instance, at the General Assembly or at the OIC meetings, included references to Kashmir exactly in line with what the Pakistanis wanted. But we overlooked that, and we said that our belief is Vasudev Kutumbakam, the world is one family, and because the people of Turkey need our help, therefore we will give this particular relief consignment. And we were very, very earnest. Now, what has Turkey done? Turkey has sent warfare-related equipment. It has sent arms and ammunition to Pakistan at a time when we certainly didn't want it to do so. It has overruled all our objections. It has gone all the way to help Pakistan. So what should we do? Every Indian citizen must make it a point to boycott Turkey, as also China. These are the two main villains who are ganging up with Pakistan against us.
What about the
Every
Indian state?
citizen.
What about the Indian state? What is the Indian state going to do, diplomatically or otherwise?
Well, I don't know what the government of India will do. It could consider even downsizing the mission that we have in Ankara. It could ask the Turks to downsize their mission. But certainly there could be some action taken in terms of, say, for instance, blocking Turkish news sites or impeding Indian tourism to Turkey. Tourists from India are a big source of revenue for Turkey. And there could be steps taken to discourage tourists from India from going to Turkey. There could be various steps. Nothing is beyond the realm of what is possible. Now, it is up to each citizen of India. Indian citizens have the key. They must decide not to go to Turkey. They must decide that they will avoid buying Chinese products. I for one, when I want to buy something, I always take a look. I make inquiries. Where is it made? And if it is made in China, I make a conscious decision not to buy it. So that it is the duty of every citizen.
No, fair enough.
The government
Fair enough.
will take appropriate action.
Tara Karta wants to come in very quickly. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a quick point. You could raise the fact that Turkish human rights record is pathetic. He's just imprisoned his main political rival. Why can't we raise concerns?
Why don't we? Is what I'm trying to get at.
Sure. Okay, yeah. Why don't we is a different issue. That's with the hands of the government. But what I'm trying to say, Shivani, is that there are many issues, things that you can do to annoy the state, which is constantly preaching at us. That is, they dismal human rights record. So that's just a thought. But I'm pretty sure something will come up. This foreign secretary and they are not the kinds to just overlook. Neither is the foreign minister.
Okay, let's wait and see what India's response is going to be in the manner of its choosing and at the time of its choosing, as they say. But Rajat, I do want to ask you the political question here. I think Ambassador Prabhu Dayal kind of hit at the nerve of the issue. We also have this tendency to want to be Vishwaguru, as they say, the Vishwaguru syndrome. We want to be nice to everybody. We believe in this world is one family, when that's not true, practically. Do you think it's time to be more pragmatic?
See, philosophically, Vishwaguru lays out the broad contours of our engagement with the world. But if the world wants to point a gun at us, what do? There is no Gandhigiri that is going to, get reflected from this country at this day and age. This is a different country with a firm, steely resolve. And let me tell you, see, where did Turkey go wrong? And I'm not coming from a very jingoistic standpoint here. When the Pahalgam attack happened, there are very, very few countries which did not condemn the terror attack. Erdogan was one individual, a leader of a country who did not till date condemn the Pahalgam terror attack. That is going below the belt.
But why are we surprised? No, Rajat, why are we surprised? His position on Kashmir is absolutely clear.
No, it's not about, it's a terror attack. Out of humanity, he should have come out and said something. If it is so black and white, then I think it therefore calls, we have to further show our resolve in that case. And this is why I'm saying, I'm not pointing into every other country who might not have come out in our support or perhaps doesn't understand the Kashmir issue. Maybe a lot of Americans don't understand, as a matter of fact. CNN, Fox doesn't understand. The POTUS doesn't understand the sensitivities and the nuances involved on Kashmir. That is fine. I'm not saying that we should stop going to America for that and go to that extreme end. Here, Turkey is a sinister actor in our scheme of things, and Turkey has to be called out. Therefore,
so no more Operation Dost.
100% not. Why should we send our medical team below the rubble and try and find people who the moment they get out of hospital are going to train their guns and put oil on their drones to be sent and murder us? Why on earth?
Well, the question goes to all.
They are sending, look at their strategic approach. Their Bakhtiar drones are also being sent to Bangladesh deliberately. Till date, they did not sign a deal. But as soon as, our relations turned sour, Turkey found an opportunity to come in and send out their drones to both Bangladesh and to equip Pakistan with it. Do your business. If you want to do strategic stuff with us, we will show you what your auqat is, in Hindi words.
Okay. Talking about business, ties, neighbors and more, I do request our guests to just hold on with me for a couple of minutes because we've got other problems coming up as well. Now, Bangladesh's chief advisor, Muhammad Yunus, has again made a remark on northeastern states of India months after he called the region landlocked. During the meeting with the Deputy Speaker of Nepal's House of Representatives, who is currently visiting Bangladesh, Yunus proposed a comprehensive